Okay, let's get into our next discussion. Now, the calls for restructuring Nigeria is once again receiving a boost as the 2019 elections inches closer.
Indeed, and politicians have incorporated restructuring as part of their campaign promises, dangling it before the electorate as a catch, to garner votes, catchphrase if you like. Now, the calls for restructuring is loudest in the southwest and the south-south regions, where elder statesmen and leaders of thought believe it is the only solution to the many problems bedeviling the country. The Niger Delta militants have even threatened to pick up arms and renew hostilities if the federal government fails to heed the calls for restructuring of the country.
All right, in a swift reaction to the renewed calls for restructuring, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says what Nigeria needs is good leadership, diversification of the economy, and the restructuring of the mindset for a positive turnaround. But restructuring in itself is a concept that means different things to different people. Will the federal government heed the calls to take another look at the recommendations of the 2014 confab and restructuring?
Yeah,
that is the complex issue that we'll be taking a look at in this next discussion. Now, we have joining us a governorship aspirant of the ADP in Lagos, Tunde Badamosi. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's nice to have you join us.
It's a pleasure, always.
Okay, let's begin this way. Can you really fault what the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has said, that restructuring, really, geographical restructuring, is not Nigeria's problem? The real issue here is how do we manage our natural resources in a way that it allows for prosperity? Let
me shock the Vice President.
Okay.
And he's somebody that I actually like and admire a lot.
Don't many of us?
You know, but whilst I agree with him that we do need to restructure leadership and that we do need to restructure our mindset, he must also agree that the model that we've had for the last few decades of development it's not ideal, it's not the best. I mean, look at it. The indices are so terrible. Lagos is the third worst city in the world to live, and it's Nigeria's leading light. Okay, we now have the largest number of poor people in the world, larger even than India, one of the most populated countries in the world. I mean, clearly, it's not working. Let's stop beating around the bush. Let's stop faffing about and deceiving ourselves. The structure, as it is not working for Nigerians. At the end of the day, governance is for who?
For the people.
It's for the people. It's for the benefit of the people. If the people are not benefiting, then we need to take a look at it again. So the 2014 confab, the result of that, the communique that they came out with, I think we need to look at it. I think we shouldn't throw it away. We shouldn't discard it into the bin, you know, along with all the other white papers that have emanated over the years and that have been swept under the carpet. We shouldn't do that. We should take a look at it.
Yes, indeed,
and
we
look
do
to
agree with that.
implement
But when
some
government
of the
says,
recommendations therein.
When this government says, look, the issue of restructuring, that those even calling for it don't seem to be really sincere, because really, what manner of restructuring
How do we measure sincerity?
Are we talking about? The question they're asking is, okay, if we say we want restructuring, what kind of restructuring?
Well, I would start with fiscal restructuring, starting with land, because, you know, of course, if you want to empower people, you start with giving them land. Even God gave Abraham the land of Canaan as his blessing, you know. So we need to take a look at the Land Use Act. And in my opinion, it needs to be repealed. Freehold, the right to freehold needs to be given back to Nigerians. And you'll see that a lot of the agitation, I'm glad you mentioned the Niger Delta militants. A lot of the agitation in the Niger Delta will just stop, end off. Mineral rights, freehold, land rights, air rights, all these things have to be given back to Nigerians. Once that is done, in order to get onto my land to get oil, you will need to pay me. And once you get the oil, whatever form that payment takes, whether it's an outright payment to buy the land or whether it's a joint venture arrangement, whatever comes out of the earth, the government can then claim royalties for. But the government cannot come and say, because there are mineral resources under your land, I own the land. You are disenfranchising the people. You are impoverishing the people by taking away their land. It's a slavish arrangement. You know, it's an internal colonization arrangement, and it needs to be expunged from the law books of Nigeria, the Land Use Act. That's number one. Number two, we also need to talk about fiscal restructuring, devolution of power in its totality. So that, for instance, the Corporate Affairs Commission needs to be abolished. If you want to run a business in a region or in a state, whatever form that we choose, that the geographical expression called Nigeria will then take going forward, you need to register at the local level. So either you register at the state level or you register at the local government level, or at the regional level even, if we split into regions, as it were. It needs to become a loose confederation, such as it was, well, maybe not exactly such as it was in the First Republic, but following the models that we see that are succeeding around the world, like the Emirates, the United Arab Emirates. You can see Dubai has the Emirates airline. Okay, Abu Dhabi has Etihad Airlines. Okay, and they're operating. They're both doing really well. All right, and they're from the same country, different states, different systems. There's nothing wrong with having that kind of model in Nigeria if we decide to operate along ethnic lines. The idea of creating states that have minorities from majority groups, okay, like Kogi State, for instance, where the Okun Yoruba have been incorporated and made a small minority in that, it's mischievous. There's nothing else behind it but mischief.
Some of the elders that thought that we needed to restructure from the parliamentary system and then change things to the presidential system and then also introduce states to diffuse the powers of the region and all of that, took a look at the concept of the fact that the region, based on ethnicity, were so powerful and were so strong, and then that suspicion between, or interregional suspicion, didn't give room for us to move forward. And then states were created to diffuse, that tension.
But in the end, it's resulted in conflict still.
But
as
where we are
skirmishes, fights breaking out between,
where we are now, some
villages.
leaders still think, or still feel, or still suspect that when they talk about restructuring, some people are pointing fingers or looking at the corporate existence of Nigeria, which some persons have come to say that when it comes to the unity or oneness of Nigeria, it's a no-go area.
I'm sorry, I refuse to buy that.
Okay.
I totally refuse to buy that. I'm a believer in inter-ethnic harmony. I'm a big believer in the fact that there's strength in numbers. I believe in that too. But not at the cost of the lives of the same people whom you're trying to, make the system benefit. Now, if it's not benefiting them, then perhaps we need to ask questions about the corporate existence of the country itself. The USSR was one of the most powerful countries in the world. It got to a point, they realized it wasn't working. Without a shot being fired, it broke into several countries. Of those countries, several of them are making waves in different spheres of human endeavor today, more than they were under the corporate USSR. Okay? Yugoslavia. The tensions, the pressures to go in different directions were there. They were prevalent for many, many decades. And one single ethnic group dominated, just as it is in Nigeria now, dominated the entire landscape of Yugoslavia. Eventually, the forces pulling them apart prevailed. Things broke out into war on a football pitch. Okay? I'd rather not go the Yugoslavia way. I'd prefer for us, if it comes to that, to go the USSR way and have a negotiated separation if we have to separate. Because the way the Nigerian system is today, it is not working.
Yeah, but a lot of people would say
that separation is not what...
The way the history, the makeup, and all other factors that make either USSR or Europe or America is totally different from sub-Saharan Africa.
No, it's not.
We have seen the South Sudan.
The USSR that we knew was a multi-ethnic country. In the end, it became clear to them that the multi-ethnicism was not working. So they broke back up into their component states along ethnic lines.
Yeah, but we've seen South Sudan, which is closer to us here. Up until now, after independence, South Sudan is still trying to negotiate peace. When everyone thought that South Sudan would have been, give or take, would have been one of the richest countries in Africa per capita.
Growing pains. Growing pains. That's all that is. In my opinion, if South Sudan wants to break up into further countries, there's no reason why not. You know, in Europe, you have tiny countries in Central Europe that have 600,000 people, okay, 400,000 people. They are countries. Singapore is 5.3 million people. The whole size of Singapore is about 20% of the size of Lagos State. Sao Tome and Principe is about the size in population of VGC, and it's a country. So I don't know. You know, some people will say, oh, some people will be landlocked. So what? Some of the countries I've mentioned in Europe are landlocked.
But this balkanization of the USSR,
yes,
that you seem to want to adopt as a model.
No, I don't want to adopt it. I'm just saying that if push comes to shove,
worst case scenario, is that
rather
what you're
than
saying?
go to war.
Okay, rather than go to war. Okay,
you know,
but
let's have
really,
a negotiated. You know, if we can't make Nigeria work because it's not working.
Yeah.
How is it that
a
country of 180 million people will have the largest number of poor people in the world, despite the resources that we're sitting on?
Is it because Nigeria cannot work?
Yes.
Or is it because of a failure on the part of the political class? Politics, like they say, is the equitable distribution of wealth.
We've had the political class, we've had the military class.
Yes.
You know, each of these classes have not made Nigeria work, ultimately. The sum total of where we are today is the result of all the actions that have been taken since 1960 till date. Well, maybe perhaps even since before 1960 till date. And the sum total of all of it is that there are more Nigerians. In Nigeria, we have the largest number of poor people in the world, as acknowledged by the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, no less. Okay? We're acknowledged as Lagos has the dubious honor of being the third worst city in the world to live, and it's quite easy to see how that could be.
No, but if we even go that way, Nigerians, the political class, the military class that you talk about are still Nigerians.
And still whether
they are in Benue, or they're in Lagos, or they're in Akwa Ibom, or in Sokoto, they are still who they are. So if we go that way, or they're in Akwa Ibom, or in Sokoto, they are still who they are. So if we go that way, for instance, what difference is it going to make when it is the same people whom we are complaining now that are not adhering to and are not agreeing for us, are still going to be the ones
The agitation in the Niger Delta is due to the fact that they believe, some will say erroneously, but I will disagree very quickly. They believe that their resources have been taken away by the wider Nigerian nation, and that they're not getting anything in return for those resources. And if you look at the makeup, the ethnic makeup of the NMPC, for instance, today, you might begin to want to agree with them, even if you had different sentiments before. If you look at the makeup of the armed forces today, the command structure of the armed forces, you might begin to agree with them that there seems to be some kind of internal colonization going on in Nigeria. So the question that you need to ask is, why do people feel so badly put upon in all of these regions that you've mentioned? It's because there clearly is a deliberate, a concerted domination of everybody else by a group.
Is that what it is? Or,
yes,
or,
it is.
or don't
yes,
you agree with the vice president in the same Minnesota where he spoke, where he actually said, look, this whole debate about restructuring is a matter of which side of the divide you belong. Those who have the resources want to take all of it, and those who do not have it want to share from
those who do not have it, I think the vice president is being politically correct here. Okay. Those who do not have the resources want to take all of it. And those who have the resources want to keep their resources. So I don't know. Can we carry on like that? Is it not going to break out into violence? Has it not broken out into violence? Are Nigerians not being killed in their thousands daily across the Middle Belt especially since 2015? Has it not ramped up since then?
Yeah.
Has there not been a reluctance on the part of the armed forces to engage with the aggressors? Has there not been excuses made by our own president saying that these people are from Libya? He said that in Europe. Here he told the governor of Benue State that these are your brothers, accommodate them. You know, there are different signals, conflicting signals coming out from the presidency about the origins of these attackers. Some will call them hoodlums, some will call them Fulani terrorists, some will call them cattle herders, you know, some will say they are Malians, some will say, the president said they are from Libya, the man in Kaduna State, the governor of Kaduna State, said they are from Mali and all these other places, and that he paid them to stop killing people. Listen, it's madness what's going on, absolute madness. And I think that it will not go on if, you know, it was to your tents, O Israel.
If we had an economy that was thriving and the political class had actually delivered,
yes.
Unfortunately, we don't have the time.
We have to leave it here.
Okay.
Yes, but we'll find time to talk about this because Nigerians are really concerned about the way forward for this country and so on. Tunde Badamosi, ADP governorship aspirant or governorship candidate for aspirant. Your primary elections is not here yet, but Lagos. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much.